Hi everyone. In this episode of Types of Functions, we are going to talk about exponential functions. So the general equation for an exponential function looks something like this. Y equals A times B to the power of X, where A is some constant, and A, if there is nothing being added or subtracted to this, will actually be your y-intercept. If something is being added or subtracted to this, then that's going to shift your entire function up or down. And so that's going to change this. But right now, A is going to be your y-intercept. And B is the base. So that is the factor at which this is exponentially changing. Now, if B is between 0 and 1, this is going to be a decay. Between 0 and 1 would be some fraction or some decimal. So if it is between 0 and 1, then you'd have a decay. And if b is greater than 1, then you're going to have a growth. You're going to be increasing. Something that's really important to note is that your exponent is a variable. Your exponent is a variable. So you want to make sure that you know that in the exponent you have an x. If you don't have a variable in your exponent, it is not exponential. Okay, so we're going to look at the decay graph and the growth graph because there's two different ones. So decay, the graph is going to cross the y-axis somewhere, that's our y-intercept, and it will decay. It will get exponentially closer and closer to 0, where 0 is an asymptote. That's an asymptote right there. If this were to be shifted up or down, the asymptote would be shifted up or down. The growth graph is still going to cross the x-axis or the y-axis somewhere, but then it's going to grow. And you still have an asymptote here at y equals 0, meaning it's going to get closer and closer, but it's not ever going to actually touch it. So now, what are some of the features that we need to know? Well, we already talked about one of the features is there is an exponent there's an x, there's a variable in the exponent. There are two different types, decay and growth. Both have a y-intercept. They do not have an x-intercept unless graph is shifted some direction, up or down. And they are curved. And there's an asymptote. So every exponential equation will have an asymptote. It doesn't always have to be y equals 0, but it will be unless this is shifted up. They always have a y-intercept. There's a variable in the exponent. And that is just a quick, brief overview of exponential functions. What I encourage you to do now is to go into Desmos and write some of your own exponential equations and see what happens as you change your a and your b. So examples, maybe plug in y equals 2 times 3 to the power of x. Maybe plug in y equals 2 times 1/2 to the power of x. And then start changing your a and see what happens. So I challenge you to go to Desmos and start analyzing exponential functions.